morning and welcome to Morning Movie News. Now, even though Aaron Taylor Johnson has basically been telling anyone who will listen that he's going to be the next Quicksilver in the Avengers 2 for months now, I was still surprised when he was officially confirmed earlier this week for the role. And that's because this will be the first time, I believe, ever in movie history that there will be two official versions of the same fictional character being presented at the same time. Quicksilver over in the Avengers 2, and then the first Quicksilver who will debut, Evan Peters, over in Bryan Singer's Days of Future Past. This was like a Quicksilver game of chicken, both running at top speeds towards each other. And I thought for sure that Joss Whedon would blink, because I would think he's above all of this. I mean, he's clearly has the bigger success with the Avengers. Bryan Singer is trying to make up for lost ground, not only for dumping the X-Men for Superman, but for what Brett Ratner did to the franchise. So I guess he can make these more desperate moves. But I would think that Whedon would just be like, you know what? I've got Scarlet Witch. I have a cast chock full of characters already. I don't need to add another one just for the sake of continuity, because you know what? I can't have Magneto anyway. Why get into this whole family dynamic? But I guess he wants the brother and sister relationship there, and they were both Avengers, so he's going forward. And one of these people, one of these franchises is going to lose big time. It's probably going to be Singer, because I think that I'm noticing, I don't think, especially with the footage that we saw with the first trailer, I don't think that the movie's quite living up to his first two X films. As I said in my trailer review, it seems to have shades of Last Stand for some inexplicable reason, because Bryan Singer didn't even direct that movie. I don't know why he would look at it and be like, I'm going to borrow from that. But he has. So clearly I think that whatever Whedon does will probably be more successful, but it will be done second. Someone else will define that character first, Singer and Peters. So that's a little bit of a loss anyway for Whedon, and I just don't understand. I really just don't understand why he's doing this. I would have just, bailed out on the whole thing and just made my Avengers sequel that doesn't really need to have, a black eye or any kind of ties to some other universe. But I also think it's interesting what this might open the door to going forward. So far, there are some blurred lines here where the Marvel Universe is. I did a BTT viewer video with Asa about Batman Superman, and she pointed out that DC is very lucky in that they have all of their characters under one roof, and Marvel's are spread out across various studios. Fox, Sony, and themselves, and over at Disney. But I wonder what this will mean going forward, because so far they've been pretty civil with each other. But the question is, now that this door has been opened and Marvel's willing to play this game, what's going to happen with the other studios and how they divide up the characters? Because I would think that, I would just get in a room with my lawyers and hash out who owns what. Maybe that needs to be done. So we'll see. We'll see how much of a disaster this is, or if Marvel is just such a juggernaut that everybody should just get out of their way. Contracts be damned. Okay, so that's the first story of the day. The second story is that the Addams Family is going to return to the silver screen, probably not for a little bit, but the wheels are in motion, the first steps have been made, and it's going to be an animated movie. Now, interesting, Chris Meledandri over at Illumination Entertainment who also wanted to bring them back with Tim Burton at the helm, but that fell through. And this, so far, just the writers have been attached, and it's still being set up. I think this is an interesting situation. I think the Addams Family, to me, none of the incarnations from the animated series that existed on television to the Barry Sonnenfeld movies, I don't think any of them have hit the mark. I don't think any of them have really captured, the artistic creepiness of the New Yorker cartoons, where they started by Charles Addams. And also, I would also say that I don't like a Tim Burton idea. I think that's too on the nose. I mean, that's like just, Tim Burton could make that movie in his sleep, and I worry that when you can make a movie in your sleep, you don't try as hard, because it's just too easy. So I would love to see some new talent come on board and maybe really impress us. I think this really would be great at Leica, if it could end up there. A stop-motion Addams Family movie could really be phenomenal. So, I mean, I have problems with Paranorman scripting, but the witch scenes, in particular in Paranorman, were amazing. Some of the most creative, yet still mainstream animation I've seen to date. And so I would love to see that creative team take on something like the Addams Family. But it's not going to be at Leica. but it's still something like that. So they should consider stop motion when whoever is making this. So I'm all game for this. I'm excited. I'd love to see somebody raise the bar artistically. You know, we've seen Christopher Nolan bring comic book movies up to you know, Oscar-worthy status, and I would love to see. I think for some reason animated movies are getting dumber. Even Pixar movies, you know, they're just getting so, you know, joke, 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 and I would love to see some of the artistry return to that. So maybe here. How interesting with the Addams Family. That would be funny. All right, so the third story of the day. Oh, I just couldn't resist. Yesterday I got an email. I get these like bulk emails from the New York Magazine, not the New Yorker where the Addams Family cartoons first ran, but New York Magazine. Great magazine, by the way. I really like it. But they send me these pop culture. I signed up for their newsletter, and they always have some like interesting headlines. And this one was great because it said Michael Fassbender is tired of people talking about his penis. And because it's referencing his full frontal nudity and shame, and apparently he's really upset and thinks it's appalling that people just keep talking about it, because apparently it was impressive. And he said, you know, no one goes around talking about a woman's vagina, and I would say, hey, Michael Fassbender, those aren't really on screen at this point, you know, so that's why no one's talking about it. But did you not watch the Oscars with Seth MacFarlane's "We Saw Your Boobs" song? I mean, women get this stuff all the time, which this article pointed out, which I thought was very fair. So Fassbender, I think, just welcome to the wonderful world of on-screen nudity. He said, you know, these are private parts, and I would say to him, hey, if they're private parts, keep them private. You're the one who put them up on a giant screen. And I think, you know, we have Blue is the Warmest Color coming out, and Shame also was an NC-17 film, as I discussed in Movie Math. And I think that while independent filmmakers embrace this rating and this freedom to depict literally anything they want on screen, they have to realize that, you know, there's going to be some crossover viewing, and mainstream audiences just don't view nudity the same way that art house audiences do. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, by the way. I'm kind of somewhere in the middle. I mean, I snicker with everybody else when something is snicker-worthy. And it's, you know, I mean, because that can, it's silly and fun, and, you know, I think to some degree when it comes to nudity, we can all be a little bit still back in high school or middle school or even pre-K, depending, you know, on the mood. But, you know, but also, I would also say that nudity is distracting, and I would really caution filmmakers, you know, and I hope they are aware of this, that, you know, just because you can show full frontal male nudity now and all kinds of crazy stuff doesn't mean you should. I mean, look at what it did to Watchmen. I still believe to this day that Zack Snyder's insistence on showing Dr. Manhattan full frontal many times on an IMAX movie, no less, was a big mistake. Because I remember when the movie came out, I was like, oh, this is the greatest comic book of all time, the greatest graphic novel. It's a masterpiece. And all the press and all people who were not comic book readers would talk about it. Like, isn't that the Blue Penis movie? I don't want to go and sit and watch that on a big screen for 2.5 hours. And then they had that extended sex scene as well. I have to give a shout out to that, which also got laughs with Night Owl and Silk Spectra in his ship. That got a ton of laughs. And it was not intentional laughs, by the way. And, you know, it was interesting to me because Alan Moore, in the original Watchmen series, intentionally, I mean, I think only once or twice you saw full frontal nudity from Dr. Manhattan, just to establish that he was naked, and he wasn't covering it up with, like, a fig leaf that he conjured up. You know, he was like, you know, I am what I am. But then for most of the graphic novel, that is just off camera. It's, I mean, off panel. You don't see it a lot. It's not in your face like Snyder did. And I think Snyder took a gamble. I think, you know, of course, Bryan Singer famously said he had Mystique nude for the blue boobs. That's what he called it, you know, selling point. And that worked. But she kind of had the scales on, so it wasn't quite the same. I think it was PG-13 nudity. So I think that's why he was able to get away with it. But Snyder did not, and it really hurt the film, and I think at every level, box office-wise, artistic-wise, integrity-wise, and just reputation, everything. All right, so those are the 3 stories of the day. Write your thoughts down below what you think about them. And don't worry about Michael Fassbender. He can take it. I know he doesn't want you to talk about it, but he put it out there, literally. All right, so on to the viewer question. I think we have our first repeat question, actually, here on Morning Movie News from Digital Leonardo. And he asks, with so many of these movies filming in China, and movie companies being more open to Asian audiences, because that's where the money is, that's how you get Hollywood's attention. I added that part there. He says, do you think we'll ever see a full-on Chinese superhero movie like Batman or Superman? I think you're going to start with supporting casts, and you're already getting that. That's already in the pipeline. Now, as I said in my Iron Man 3 review, and hey, by the way, if you haven't seen Iron Man 3 by now, you have to realize that spoilers are fair game. But I really strongly felt that the Guy Pearce character, who ended up being the Mandarin, should have been Chinese. It should have been an Asian actor. I think that would have been a great character. It would have been great to have a Chinese actor playing a villain. Villains are so integral to the comic book genre. They are not. I know everyone said, and I think Disney made this choice because they felt China would be offended. But I think that if China had a kick-ass supervillain that was as beloved as Heath Ledger's Joker, and etc., Tom Hardy's Bane, I think they'd be thrilled. They should be thrilled. Whoever that Chinese actor would have been thrilled with that huge box office thing on their resume. But I think that would have been a great choice in keeping with the character, no less. But then also with these movies come, so I think that was a missed opportunity for this. It's raining. You might know. I don't know if you can pick that up, but it's raining pretty hard here in New York. Oh, you can probably see it actually now that I look. That's some serious rain. Welcome to New York City. And oh, wow, look at that. Okay. Back to the story. Don't get too distracted by the rain, hopefully, even though it is distraction-worthy. So anyway, coming up, you have Fan Bingbing as Blink in Days of Future Past. I think that's great. I'll have to say, one of you pointed out in the comments of my trailer review that maybe that's all we'll see of Blink, and with the way the X-Men movies go, I think that's very possible, which would suck. So I'd hope that's not a write-off. But there's going to be Chinese movie stars will be very heavily integrated into Transformers 4. You have Han Gang and also Li Bingbing. I believe they're not related, Fan Bingbing and Li Bingbing. I guess Bingbing is like Smith in China. But they are going to be large roles in Transformers 4. Although I will point out, have yet to be in any of the promotional photography or set photos leaked. So I'm like, you have Chinese movie stars, why aren't you using them? Maybe they're in the Chinese press. But also there's a big reality TV show going on in China right now to cast another Chinese, aspiring actor in the film. So I think you might get some very strong supporting roles, so that's fantastic. And also there's more Asian directors coming into the business, and maybe that will help. But as you can see in Fast and Furious franchise, he wasn't a main character, Han, he was a supporting character, which is, is unfortunate. He was great, and he got killed off. So that's just ridiculous. All right, so that's today's morning movie news. Thank you for tuning in. Please write down anything you would like to say about today's topics or question, and anything you want to see covered tomorrow or Monday, and any questions you might have. Thanks for watching. Bye.